Well then, should I wear this outfit today? Choosing clothes from my closet for today is enjoyable. And gathering various information from the morning is essential. Checking the weather forecast on the news and selecting appropriate clothing based on the weather and temperature. Of course, I also consider the occasion and the people I'll meet, depending on where I'm going. Since today's just some errands in the neighborhood, this should do. Besides, for that task, I have a pension-related matter to discuss. Could you please call Mike, the branch manager? I'm a 75-year-old pension recipient, and I have a pension account at this bank. The male bank teller sitting at the counter had a face I had never seen at this branch before.
Huh?
At the counter, there were female bank tellers lined up beside him. This branch is one of the larger ones, so there are many customers. Today, I arrived in accordance with the opening time for counter services, so it was relatively empty. Of course, I properly received a numbered ticket from the ticket machine and waited in line. Ken and I requested to speak with Mike, the branch manager. Since my voice isn't particularly loud, I consciously spoke up again, in case it didn't reach him.
Huh? Don't think you can just call me Ken so casually.
I only called him that after seeing his name tag. But what's with this attitude? I wondered, feeling puzzled. Even though I'm not an unreasonable, complaining customer, I couldn't help but wonder about this attitude.
The branch manager won't be called for something as trivial as a pension consultation.
Ken firmly refused.
The branch manager only deals with important clients directly.
Smirking, he looked down on me in my fast fashion attire.
This is a mega bank, you know. Commoners should use regional banks.
That's what Ken said with a mocking grin. If you're so proud of working here at a mega bank, how about reevaluating your customer service attitude? I thought I was calmly stating the obvious.
No, someone like you are not our customers.
Ken's face turned red as he raised his voice. It was a classic fit of rage. Do young people call this reverse rage these days? I couldn't help but be impressed by the strange way he understood the situation. So perhaps I should voluntarily cease being a customer here, I whispered to Ken.
You know, it's better to go to a local bank suitable for common folks.
He chuckled and flashed the next customer's queue number to attend to. Well then, tell the branch manager I want to close my $1 billion account, I said as I tried to leave the place. Ken stood up.
What?
My unexpected words might have seemed like a misunderstanding.
What are you talking about, half asleep?
He looked down on me, firmly believing that I was a pauper, both in attitude and physically.
Can even laugh at the joke of someone as shabby as you having $1 billion.
He said with a mocking tone, though he laughed in disbelief.
Besides, when you think about risk hedging, you wouldn't have $1 billion in a single account. If you're going to tell lies, at least make them a bit more believable.
He shrugged, seemingly relieved. It seems you're not entirely clueless about finance. The mention of risk hedging from Ken intrigued me, and I quickly turned my thoughts to craft this response amidst our verbal exchange. His ability to remain unfazed by the substantial sum of $1 billion might just work to his advantage as a bank employee.
Shelley.
The branch manager rushed over in a panic, apparently having been in the back reception room.
Did something disrespectful happen?
The branch manager's face had turned red, so I relayed Ken's words as is.
Ken, do you think this person is?
The branch manager yelled angrily at Ken.
What?
Facing a bewildered Ken once again, the branch manager couldn't hide his embarrassment.
This person, you see, is one of our most valued customers.
It was the first time I had seen the usually calm branch manager shout.
You can't be serious. Someone dressed like this old lady?
Ken remained unfazed, in stark contrast to the branch manager.
Ken, watch your words. How dare you be disrespectful to such a tremendously important customer?
Worried that the branch manager might burst a blood vessel, I couldn't help but try to pacify the situation. Now, Morris, let's talk this out calmly, I said as I was led into the back reception room. I took a seat on the sofa, a familiar place by now.
Sorry for the rudeness.
The branch manager seemed apologetic as he sat down on the opposite sofa. As for Ken, he remained standing there, sulking. The branch manager pulled his sleeve and made him take a seat next to him. I am a private investor, involved in real estate, stocks, venture capital, and various other investments. I introduce successful business owners to the mega bank and consult with the branch manager, Mike, on loan applicant evaluations. I play an advisory role in assessing the suitability of loan applicants. Certainly, as Ken pointed out, I did not deposit $1 billion as cash funds in this branch account. But I am proud that the profit I brought to this branch would not be contained in $1 billion. Oh, I guess it wasn't just pride. Because that's how Mike explained it to Ken when he was explaining me to him.
I didn't know you were such a great person.
Ken was drooping as the branch manager lectured him. At that moment, there was a knock at the reception room door. It was a certain someone.
The chairman.
The branch manager shouted in a crazy voice. That's no wonder. John, the former president of this mega bank, had appeared.
Excuse me, I'm sorry to interrupt you, Mike. I told the deputy manager to let you through.
He was dressed casually, something unthinkable in his working life.
And please don't call me the chairman. I'm already retired from active duty, just an old man.
John laughed amusedly.
Shelley, thank you for the opportunity.
He shook my hand. The branch manager and Ken, who had no idea what was going on, just looked at us in amazement. I wonder if I look that shabby. I like this fashion. I asked John, who is wearing fast fashion from the same manufacturer as me.
No, I think you look youthful. By the way, who said anything about shabby?
John frowned as he said this. Ken here. I glanced at Ken, and he jumped up with a jerk of his shoulders.
I love our matching outfits, but do I look shabby?
John walked up to Ken and asked.
No, not at all.
Ken's voice was shaking. Can't we just leave the nastiness at that? I winked at John. and he laughed in an exhilarated voice. John is the same as ever. It was the same mischievous smile he had had since he was a child. I smiled at him, thinking that no matter how great he became, no matter how much he was admired by those around him, he still retained his boyish spirit.
John, what kind of relationship do you two have?
It's a fact that I had kept secret even from the branch manager, whom I have known for many years. But John, the former president of the company, and I have known each other since childhood. What I am trying to hide is the fact that I did what he asked me to do this time. The story goes back to 2 weeks ago. He contacted me, and as soon as we met, he asked me for some advice. I have a favor to ask you. Will you be my spy? He asked me. He was making a mysterious offer with a mysterious expression on his face. He was not hiding his excitement like a mischievous child. What is it? What kind of story? As I said, I, too, have a hidden curiosity that is just as strong as John. We are now 15 years past our second bad boy period, you might say.
There is a problem in our bank. His name is Ken, and I want you to spy on him to see if he really qualifies as bank employee.
Thus began the spy mission that John and I were on. Ken is the son of the president of a well-known company, a longtime acquaintance of John.
That company has made our bank their main bank.
I guess he was in a position where he could not make a statement that would condone the hiring of a connected person. But well, in layman's terms, it was a nepotistic hiring. Ken himself was not told that his father had talked to the bank president, and he believed that he was hired on his own performance. No, in fact, he graduated from a top university and got excellent grades in college. He was also studying to be a banker. He might have been hired even without connections. However, even after he joined the bank, his cocky attitude was unmistakable. At the branch he was previously at, he apparently caused trouble by not following the instructions of the branch manager to whom he was assigned. So he was transferred to a branch with a good reputation for employee training.
But it was hard to believe that employees who had completed their initial training at the school would be so arrogant to customers.
John apparently thought it was not fair to rely solely on the opinion of his former supervisor, who was critical of Ken. In the unlikely event that a disciplinary action needs to be taken, the decision cannot be made by accepting only the arguments of one side or the other. John must have thought that he also had a responsibility for having meddled in the hiring process. Therefore, he decided to use me as a test subject to make a decision by having me do the window work. In order not to inconvenience other customers, today was the day when Ken was assigned to this branch and started working as a teller.
I was also watching the earlier exchange on the waiting couch in disguise, wearing a hat, mask, and glasses.
John's revelation surprised both the branch manager and Ken.
I don't think they realized I was among the customers.
Again, he laughed loudly. Thus, I finished explaining to the branch manager and Ken our relationship as childhood friends, and that it was an aptitude test as bank employees. However, there was one thing that John did not reveal. He did not reveal the fact that he had been nepothetically hired. What Ken should have reflected on was that he did not have the slightest spirit of the customer is God. In customer service, the most important thing is to pay respect to the customers you deal with. This should have been drilled into him during his initial training, but Ken must have consciously covered his ears because he felt it went against his own policy. He was also hindered by his preconceived notions that pensioners are poor and that rich people should not be dressed in fast fashion all over. Ken probably never had any financial hardships, thanks to his father, who is a director and president of a well-known company. He seems to have been brought up in a privileged environment from an early age and has a strong sense of being an elected official. He is said to wear a high-brand suit on a regular basis, even more so than the average one worn by bank employees. The watch he wears now is a very expensive one, the price of which would buy a luxury car.
To you, who are more interested in high-brand products, it may indeed look shabby.
John picked up the t-shirt he was wearing. Don't be rude. It's from an apparel company I'm invested in. We, who had happily taken on Operation Spy, were dressed in matching t-shirts and chinos. This morning, I informed John, you should wear that outfit I gave you as a gift. It is an up-and-coming apparel manufacturer that offers low-price products and has been gaining momentum recently. It has been getting a lot of media coverage. Even though it is a fast fashion brand, I think the design and quality are not that bad. That's why I invest in them, but well, you can't deny that they're not as good as brand name products.
I'm sorry, I like it too.
John scratched his head and apologized.
I am very sorry. It was my lack of education.
The branch manager apologized flatly, but it couldn't be helped, since there would have been no way to educate him if it was only his first day on the job.
No, I knew it was an odd time for the move, but there was nothing in the handover documents.
So the branch manager was not informed that Ken was a person of note. I was curious to know what he meant, so I asked him.
I knew it.
John nodded as if he alone was convinced. Apparently, the trouble that caused Ken's reassignment was known only to upper management within the bank.
I thought the branch manager would lead Ken to the straight and narrow.
It seems that John, who was consulted by the current executive, took the lead at his own discretion. However, he left the preparation of handover materials to Ken's former boss. This also seems to have been an action based on John's policy of not trusting only what one side says. Was it really only one-sidedly Ken's fault that the trouble occurred? There were still doubts about the supervisor that he had harbored for some time, so it was also a major spy operation to find out.
I guess they deliberately did not communicate Ken's bad reputation and the cause of the trouble, to lower the branch manager's reputation and to gain an advantage in the race for promotion.
It seems that Ken's former boss was also a very devious type.
I'm sorry, too. I was caught up in appearances and behaved rudely.
Ken looked remorseful.
What does it matter what customer looks like? No matter what our customers are wearing, we must be sincere with them.
The branch manager had a point. If he learned from the ground up under this boss, it might be possible to retrain Ken. This gave me hope.
Thank you for your patience. The number 32. Please come to this counter.
When I visited the bank again later that day, I was greeted by Ken's fresh smile.
Shelley, I apologize for the trouble I caused you the other day.
I hurriedly stopped Ken as he got up from his seat. I came here today to consult with you, Ken. When I told him so, he looked surprised. In fact, I asked John about it after we finished spying on him. He said, even though you were hired because of your nepotistic background, wouldn't you have been given a shot without any retraining? John defended Ken. Ken has the talent of a banker. He is studying finance diligently and has a lot of knowledge for a young man. All he needs now is to have his personality knocked back into shape, he said. I thought that if John had such high expectations of him that he was willing to show him mercy, he might have a chance to become a great banker. After all, he has a sharp and personable branch manager by his side. He may be a gem in the rough that will shine if he is polished and free from the mud of preconceived notions and prejudice. I thought it might not be a bad idea to invest in his future, and smiled at him.